I gotta say, when this game was announced, I think I was one of the few who did a double take. Even though me and Zelda don't always get along, I respect its approach for more methodical, even cerebral play, although it can get a little too methodical. Oh, the legend always involves the hero of time being male? Well, you do know that legends can evolve and be reinterpreted over time, right, jackass? So I guess in hindsight it was great that this concept was conjured up. I just thought it would have been well incompatible because... Look, I used to be a religious follower of Dynasty Warriors, but that was because I was around 10 years old. These games are dumb. You just mash the X button until everyone falls down. I know, such a dissonant opinion from the critical consensus, right? After playing through the story mode of Warriors Orochi 1, I tuned out. I basically skipped an entire generation of this series, but after picking up a PS3 on the cheap and going to Dynasty Warriors 6, I just... Is this really the sum total of what the 7th generation brought to the table? I know 6 was basically the first Vet-Gens games besides 5 Empires, but seriously? And I don't remember it being this janky. Jesus Christ, I was a stupid child. Not like today where I'm dignified and respectable. Sure, but anyway, I did like these games because they did have a unique appeal. A beat 'em up with just a little bit of strategy, depending on the game. But yeah, both Zelda and Dynasty Warriors have been in desperate need of fundamental variety. The frenetic pace of Dynasty Warriors could lend Zelda some badly needed distance from its core, and Zelda's style could elevate Dynasty Warriors above the cheesy schlock it's always been burdened with. In fact, I can say with confidence that almost everything Zelda brings to Warriors is for the better. Something I found striking as I started the game is Link's origin story. He's not some boy from humble beginnings destined to be a hero. He's a private in the Hyrulean army who just gets the courage to step into the battlefield because it's the right thing to do. Or is it Hylian army? The game itself is inconsistent on that. Anyway, although he gets some immediate goodwill by running in to try and save Zelda at the first sign of danger, her bodyguard Impa has enough sense to doubt his abilities a little, so at least this game lends some credence to giving Link the piece of the Triforce that denotes he has courage from the very start. But honestly, the story isn't even what I want to talk about. This campaign just gets points for being more exciting and dynamic than any game in either series in recent years, or at least I'm guessing. What Hyrule Warriors has over Dynasty Warriors is that each mission is quite long, but you have a variety of objectives that often shift when a need arises. Even though it makes these a lot more scripted, it's never nearly as systematic as the franchise used to be. You spend far less time just running between bases with nothing to fight, and at least when you do, the run speed is good enough to make up for a lack of mounts, which itself is kind of puzzling. Epona is a weapon class, a DLC weapon class at that, which is odd. The best missions are the ones that force you to balance multiple objectives at once, usually balancing offensives on the enemy base with defenses of your own. It adds a good deal of tension, but it also highlights probably the game's biggest flaw gameplay wise, and that is that your allies are pretty much useless. Very rarely will they pursue objectives and bases of their own accord. Most of the time they're just whining for your help because God forbid the computer has any sort of autonomy. It's not just frustrating from a gameplay standpoint, it's thematically all wrong. It's hard to feel these are big, grand battles with lots of people on the ground when it's only your character that has a stake in things. And something I kind of saw coming with this particular crossover, and a big reason why I didn't feel this concept would work, is that fighting these enemies can get banal because there's not a huge pool of unique generals to draw from, which are always standouts in these games. Instead, there's a pretty decent pool of mini-bosses, but they're either pathetically easy or have what feels like an arbitrary amount of health. Because the game really wants you to exploit weak points and time your attacks, you'll be seeing a lot of the same animations over and over. For what it's worth, I never got bored of them because they're as cathartic as anything else, but man, did it get anemic fighting these things. They just don't die, and it's not a test of skill, it's just a matter of attrition. And the campaign in general definitely gets tiresome by the end, especially as the AI feels more and more limited. Carry your own weight, suckers. I can't bail you out all the time because I'm too busy taking on the boss to worry about the base that you damn well have the capacity to... Granted, none of these problems are really all that new by Warriors standards, but something that really struck me was the dialogue. Okay, these mild grunts during battle are okay, but it's incredibly weird to see characters flapping their gums during cutscenes while nothing comes out. The last Dynasty Warriors game to do this was the second one, which was a launch title for the PS2, and I can't believe I dug out my PS2 just to show you this. Or at least I did, only to find out the disc doesn't work anymore. So here's some Steambot Chronicles because it makes me happy. I think I'm gonna have to turn to emulation if I want to recapture this PS2 magic, and god, I have a lot of games to do that with too. But Hyrule Warriors does have some dialogue, narration during pre-battle cutscenes. What? This is an incredibly discouraging double standard. Are Nintendo afraid of giving their characters real voices because the last time they did it was recognised as a complete disaster? Dudes, the CDI games were 20 years ago, and the cartoon is at least 25 years old. That's time enough to give it another shot. Also, I really don't know about the character roster. You can tell their selection of villains was painfully limited, which should really show how hard the entire series has been leaning on Ganondorf. To be fair, his levels are probably the best because he can just fucking clean house. But still, Zant and Girahim being the only other returning villains means they had to design a few new ones for this game. You've got a sorceress seemingly designed by Itagaki, a levitating wizard that is just annoying and piss weak, and a guy who, well, he's basically Lu Bu. I don't think that's a controversial statement. But I mean, there are also choices that are just goofy. I don't mind this Sora princess because frankly, being a mainstay of the series' biggest era, they have to be represented somehow. But Agatha the Bug Girl from Twilight Princess and 2 incarnations of Midna? Where is Vati? You know, the second longest running villain of the entire series? And I'm not sure why it took DLC, even free DLC, to make the new bad guys playable. Seems like something you should unlock by beating the main story. And beat the main story I did. If it sounds like I hated the game, well, I didn't, but I mean, what do you think the appeal of this game is? The story mode being a metaphor for the Industrial Revolution? No, it's just about kicking the crap out of whatever is in your way and looking good while doing it, and not even in a Bayonetta sort of way. The reason this is so great is the reason I have nothing to say about its positives. There's no real art to it. You know, I like talking about depth in games as a complete whole, and how their individual elements reinforce each other, but just watch this quick montage, that'll be my positive side to this review. Anyway, I liked it enough to beat Legend mode, but when I got to Adventure mode, my heart sank. Okay, you have to understand, when I see a simple, arbitrary but understandable checklist of goals that is easily obtainable but will either take me a long time or I might just miss out on the best ranks a few times, I get shivers. I'm a perfectionist when it comes to this sort of thing, but it also has a real tendency to piss me off, and I can just tell, even as someone who can grind insanely hard instrumental full band FCs for half an hour with no regrets, trying to play through this mode will only make me very, very unhappy. So I'm going to exert the self-control to stop while I still have it. Besides, I have so many other games to play, particularly on the PS3 I just bought. All I can say in the end is, it's good enough for a game I didn't pay money for. Thank you once again, Mum.